What's up, toy fiends? This is Factor from Irikanji Toys, and I'm here to take you through another tutorial, or kind of just a expose thing as to how I create my toys, some of my processes, all that kind of stuff. Funnily enough, this is the third take of this video because first video I forgot to hit record, second video forgot to change some settings and it was all jerky and chopped up. There's anything gold in there, maybe I'll spice it in. But this is the third take. So, third take, third episode. I kind of wanted to, this episode, go through some of the main ways in which I create toys, different sculpting methods. Really, there's predominantly three ways in which I make toys. It used to be two, now there's three. The first way is kind of like free sculpting. This is where you get a bunch of clay and you just sculpt out of clay, purely with clay. The very first sculpt that I did was extremely overambitious, and it was this, right? So for this I used sculpey, and not like a pro sculpey or anything like that, but this is the bog standard generic fucking sculpey, the brown shit that it's floppy and it's as soon as it gets a little bit warm it just kind of falls all over the place. I was really ambitious with this. I hadn't sculpted anything before. I spent an extraordinary amount of time on it, shaping each individual piece and then sticking it on and then blending it together. But it was a little impractical because of the size of it. It's pretty big, and the mold for this was huge, and I fucked up like 2 molds molding this and wasted a crap load of silicone. Sculpey is a really great thing to start out with. It gets you into sculpting, it gets you into working with shapes and really just kind of like moving into it. I would not recommend this sculpey, however, if you want to seriously do sculpting with this kind of thing. It's not great. These days I go for the grey medium stuff. It's nice and firm. The pros of this is that sculpey is relatively cheap. It's not too expensive. You get a lot of free form off it. You can do a lot. It's a very organic thing for organic work and doing texture and all that kind of stuff. It's really great. That's not my style though. So I kind of moved away from using this kind of sculpey. The other thing with this is that I spent a fucking bullshit amount of time sanding this shit. Like, more so than I do now, and I love sanding. We're gonna make sanding great again. Don't forget that, okay? I'm gonna get a cap with make sanding great again. People won't understand what the fuck it means. So, one of the things that I didn't really like about sculpey at this stage when I just started out was that I couldn't get that perfect finish. I sanded and sanded and sanded and I just fucking couldn't get it, man. Like, I couldn't get those sharp edges on it. I couldn't do that. And really, you can't get that on sculpey. It's really hard to get sharp edges. Well, I found maybe there's other techniques. You have to really sand it down, and it never really goes into that hard edge kind of style, which is kind of what I love. I love ultra smooth and I love ultra sharp kind of things. I did on this end up using alcohol to rub it down. That smoothed it out a lot more, but I really, I made a couple of these and they just basically sit down in the corner gathering dust and shit. Anybody wants one to do something with, I've got a couple here. So after that I moved up to like surfacing and surfacing sculpt. Now surfacing is a big process, I guess. There's a lot involved in it. It takes a lot of time. I seriously probably spend maybe 60 to 70% of my time doing surfacing and getting shit nice and smooth. This is another organically sculpted piece. You can see it's still using that old sculpey. This was maybe my 4th or 5th piece that I ever did. It took me a long time, and it took a long time to get smooth, but I'm going to show you that at some stage. So I really enjoyed this one. This was where I finally worked out how to get that smoothness to it. But you know, sculpey, it has a few drawbacks. You probably can't see it, but in the edge of this, there's a divot, which I never actually fucking noticed to check, and it's because I was holding it like this, and sculpting and sanding and doing shit. Not sanding, because I baked it, but it pressed in no matter how careful I was. So that's something about sculpey you have to be careful of. Like, it'll deform with it, and it likes the warmth, right? So then I moved into doing stuff like this, you know, and I got the smoothness in, and the smoothness worked. Oh, there's a bit of fucking plasticine there from 4 years ago. Yeah, but the great thing is that then I started moving into the firm stuff. And the firm stuff was really cool. It held its shape. It didn't deform so much when I was holding it or anything like that. Like, my fingers wouldn't press into it so much, and it was actually, you know, pretty good. And I got a few things out of it that I liked. And then I discovered that I could take little plastic bits and bond them with the sculpey. And this was probably the first piece where I started doing that. And it was kind of a harbinger of things to come, I guess. Right? So then, second thing that you have is that you can use things like apoxysculpt, right? So this is an all sculpted, fully sculpted piece. There's a couple of little pieces that were attached here. This was a piece that I did in collaboration with my bro Bomji in Japan. Sup, boy? Sup, boy? That was bad. So this piece that I did with Bomji, it's fully sculpted, but this is using apoxysculpt. And what we did was put a aluminium frame inside, and then just put a thin layer of apoxysculpt on the outside. The thing I love about apoxysculpt is how smooth you can get it with very, very little effort. That's one thing I love about apoxysculpt. You can get it very smooth, very clean. It's so nice. Like, it just, you know, you can smooth it out with water, and then once you sand it, you can get hard edges and stuff like that. The other thing that I really love about apoxysculpt is that it's really, really helpful when you're bashing. And what I mean by kitbashing is that you can take existing toys and use them as a base and build onto them. A lot of people do a lot of kitbashing. It's a really, really common thing in toy making, where you'll take one toy, transform it into something, and oftentimes it's completely unrecognizable. The good thing about this is that you have a base on which to build. You can then take that base and build your heart's desires. It's really, really cool. So this piece here, I did when we did a This Is Not a Toy Scene exhibition up in Sydney last year. And it took me probably about half an hour to build this piece, the skeleton frame of it. It took me another couple of weeks to actually finish it, but if you take a look closely, you'll see things like, so this is fully sculpted with apoxysculpt. I use a lot of apoxysculpt when I'm making these kind of toys. And then I found some hoses that I attached. This was some kind of plastic toy surfboard or something like that. You know, I used the bottom base, the bottom piece of a dude here, and some guns, and lots of sculpting in here. And the face panel here, this is a fucking turtle. There's some kind of plastic turtle. It had a square piece in it. I really wanted to put some holographic stickers in here, like Battle Beast or G.I. Joe. Not G.I. Joe. Fucking Transformers. I really wanted to put some in here, but I don't know where to get them. If you know where to get any kind of holographic stickers, just let me know, because I want that. Not just holographic sticker paper. So this is a really good example of kit bashing, okay? So then there's something like this. This is a lot of sculpting on this. This is a very small base of a toy, and then a lot of sculpting. Ears are sculpt, tail sculpt, the feet are sculpt. Really, I think only the head was bashed out of another toy because I like the shape, and sometimes it's hard to sculpt like nice like face forms and stuff like that, or something that's just really symmetrical and cool. The symmetry is a fun thing, but you know, symmetry and everything. So then I made the second version of this guy, right? And as you can see, I've literally just finished doing him. Okay, so this was another bash, but there's quite a bit of sculpting on him. Okay, so, oops, lost a man. So the legs were really short. They were up to about here. I re-sculpted and pulled all the legs down and stuff. There's all sculpting and epoxy sculpt all through here. You'll see this head and the face here. This is a fucking helicopter, man. Like, that was pretty cool. There's some mammoth tusks that I found in a thing of toys. Is a little ass there. That was from a toy. And then spikes and pieces like that. So this took a very long time to actually surface and put together. I wanted to keep some of the detail here, so I had to be careful. There's a ball bearing there. So this is more of your kit bashing, but with a lot of sculpting, and it's not so much even a base. It was just a whole bunch of different pieces and bits and things thrown together, and it worked. On the extreme end of this, then you have something like this, and this is the Grimecha, right? So this was also, this was really two main core pieces. It was a He-Man figure, there's the robot with the jaw thing, right? And then there's this head here. I have a lot of Transformers, and this is a Grimlock head, which was broken off another toy, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to be a fucking purist about it. I love Transformers, so I might as well use it in sculpting. I sculpted up all the hand, I sculpted all this, I extended this whole body up taller so that his head was able to be nicely mounted on there, and then there's all bits and pieces. This is all using apoxysculpt and bases, right? There's a lot of work that goes into bonding things, a lot of work to make it look seamless and all that kind of stuff. I love this fucking one. So that's kind of more your kit bashing angle. So you got your pure sculpting, which is great, and then you've got your kit bashing. The other thing is that you could always do a piece, like a base piece in Sculpey, and then build on top of that with apoxysculpt. And that's a really cool thing. Third thing is 3D printing. Now, I haven't actually done a toy yet using 3D printing. I used to kind of be like a bit about 3D printing and designer toys and stuff. They just look so fucking perfect, right? Like, even if they're molded up and stuff and all the casting and shit's done by hand, they just look so fucking clean and so perfect. And I'd kind of be like, no, where's that beautiful handcrafted quality about them? I've kind of changed my opinion on that a fair bit lately, though. It doesn't really matter what methodology or tool you use to make a toy as long as you're creating it. And in the last year or two, I've seen a lot of really great toys that have been done in 3D sculpting, and they look organic and they look beautiful. I think things like ZBrush have really helped this. But you can do all the nice hard edges and stuff in it. You can do that. But where I really, really love the possibility of using 3D modeling and 3D printing is in creating bases. So I will never be a person that won't hand sculpt onto something or do something like that. Well, you know, unless I ever want to make a Transformer, pretty hard to do that without 3D modeling it. Anybody wants to make a fucking Transformer with me, let me know. I ain't got no skills in that shit, but I want to make one. So maybe a couple of weeks ago, a friend of mine, Mills, volunteered to help me out on a little project in transforming one of my paintings of a cat into a base that I kind of want to develop into a platform that I can build a whole bunch of different characters on. So he modeled up this, and I got these printed out. My friend Body put them together for me, and came out pretty cool, you know. Lots of work. So now I'm kind of learning how to resurface and change and build this into a platform that I can build a whole bunch of different characters off of different things and sculpt my stuff onto them, but have this as a base. And I think for me, that is where 3D printing is really going to come into a lot of use for myself personally, just as something that I can build on. You can see here I've just started working on surfacing this. The 3D prints will have a lot of like striation, they have to be cleaned off. I'm experimenting with a technique here where I take Mr. Dissolved Putty and I brush the Mr. Dissolved Putty on here and then put a surfacing spray on, and I'm going to sand this back and see if the striations just disappear. Might be a really quick way of cleaning them up. So there you have it. Those are the three kind of methodologies and ways in which I begin to sculpt my toys. There is no one right way. As you can see, I mix and match a whole bunch of different fucking elements in order to create something. As a non-planner, which I've probably mentioned before, somebody that just makes things up as I go along, it's very helpful to just have a whole bunch of techniques and bond things together. You can use a combination of 3D printing, sculpey, although you don't want to bake your sculpey with your 3D print. You can use apoxysculpt and just put it all together, and then you can kitbash and take pieces from other toys. I got a whole big fucking box of parts and old Transformers and shit that I dig through and look for inspiration to do. There is, again, as I've always said, no right way of doing this. There is only the fucking fun way of doing this. If you enjoyed this video, please hit subscribe and follow on. I have a lot of other things that I'm going to cover in time. I have a lot of processes that I want to go through. I've only just begun. I'm kind of enjoying this now. It's still weird talking to myself in my little workshop here, but that's cool. If you have any ideas, any suggestions, if you know how to make a fucking transformer and want to teach me or help me make one, just hit the comments below and let me know. I'd like to get some feedback from you guys, and I'd love to get ideas of stuff that you'd love to see me cover. Some things I know, other things I don't know, and I'm going to learn a shitload from you, and I hope that you learn at least a little bit from me. Alright, cheers guys, bye. Oh shit, I forgot. There is a fourth method. The fourth method that I use is fucking beer. Because what fun is making toys without a drink? And if you're a non-drinker, you drink coffee or soft drink or something like that. But for me, beer is one of the best methods for making toys. Cheers.